Can't see. Welcome, everyone. Hello. It's Thursday, and you're with us.
Yep, it is
Brian here, of
Brian,
course. Yeah, and
Dan.
Dan Payton, right?
Yep,
Author
yep.
Daniel Payton.
It is. Yes, it is. As you said, it's Thursday, and once again, I reached out to one of our former guests, Alexi Vandenberg, the head of
Prince of Cats.
Prince of Cats Publishing,
Prince of Cats.
and one of his authors has agreed to join us, and I'm excited. I got a chance to chat with her. She seems very interesting, and I'm excited to talk about her books. So, but as we like to do, it's time to chat ahead of time. Find out what's going on in our little weird worlds. So I've got some great news, but I'll let you start. Anything spectacular happening since 2 weeks ago? You have a good St. Patrick's Day?
Well, unfortunately, St. Patrick's Day, I worked. Why? Because it was one of my coworkers' 20th birthday on St. Patrick's Day. So he requested the night off. I can't close. And he knows that I do the show on Thursday nights. So that's why one of the reasons why I couldn't do the show. I was working. But other than that, it was a good day. So, yeah.
Yeah, I actually didn't have St. Patrick's Day. I don't really celebrate it per se. However, Tuesday before St. Patrick's Day, I always host game night at my house with a bunch of friends, and so I decided to make it Irish themed. So we had Irish soda bread, and we had I put on a bunch of beautiful pictures from Ireland through my TV, so it would be rotating those and played music in the background that was true Celtic and Irish music. So I gave the feel of the time, but here where we're at, and I'm sure it's not too different for you. You see, it's spring. Spring has sprung.
I know.
In Michigan, spring is just diet winter. It's not quite the winter it was a month ago, but it's still winter. So
True.
In the Berkshires, is it about the same?
Well, weather is a fickle thing. 1 minute it's 60 degrees, it's beautiful out, there's a breeze running through your hair. Oh, it's fantastic. Everyone's wearing shorts, the windows are down, the music is pumping. And then the next day, like right now, there's snow back down on the ground. Just a little bit.
I'm done with snow.
Just a little dusting happened last night. So it's been a cold 41 degrees. So yeah, it's like, what happened? You teased us. Teased us of what's to come. So yeah.
So yeah, I said I'm done with snow. I like snow. I really do like snow, but I've had enough of it. This year it's just been so snowy.
Yes. Yeah.
It has been over the top snowy.
Absolutely. So yeah.
So as I am doing right now, which you can see me acting weird, as I'm liking and sharing this video on Facebook for me, but you also can give it a like and subscribe on YouTube. I don't know what you can do. Is it Twitch you're on too? So I'm not sure if
we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We have our YouTube subscribers. So hello to them. Shout out. Thanks for the follow and subscribes and all those likes. Yes, we're also on Twitch.
So
yeah.
So everybody, in all the various social medias that you young folks are using, make sure you like, share, subscribe, ring a bell, whatever you do.
Yeah, hit a button somewhere. Yeah.
So, Valerie, hello, Valerie's on. John Clark is saying hello. Ashley,
our clan has arrived. Our posse, our show posse, our usual suspects. John Clark. My sister here. Hello, welcome. We're still down a couple of people, but they're slowly making their way. John Clark, Colorado spring and autumn are the confused months of the year. Hot one day and snowing the next. Yeah, I can imagine. I'd love to go to Colorado.
I've been there once, a long time ago, and it was
Oh, I'm
Denver.
jealous once again.
I
I
was
need to
in
leave.
Denver. We got to go up to the mountains. I've always wanted to see the Rocky Mountains, so we did, and it was
Yeah.
beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Oh.
Lots of breweries.
Uh,
That's why
oh,
breweries, lots of beer.
breweries. Yeah, a lot of breweries. I would love to go there. Just see the mountains. I think that would be nice. So it's on my to-do list, my bucket list.
So yes. Oh, you got Rockies are beautiful. I love the Smoky Mountains. I was there for 18 years, but the Rockies are a whole other creature. I love the Rockies. They're beautiful.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
well, Amber. So I have had a busy week.
I know. I would like
And
to hear all about it, and so would everyone else because I'm curious. I haven't asked. I left it alone. I'm like, what's he been up to? Well, now I know. Let's find out.
let's talk about it. First
Yeah.
of all,
Spell.
for my game friends, if you've been following Heroes Rising, you'll notice some of my new art in there and a new long story in there. What you don't know, and I'm gonna tell you this a little bit of story background here, is that we have been working extra hard right now on Heroes Rising to get the game working, story running, artwork running, because a couple of the people who we hire, who are freelance artists in the game, one's from Russia and one's from Ukraine. And so it's been really difficult, and we understand what's their difficulties. And so it's like all of a sudden we've had a little more work on our end to take care of stuff, and we're also concerned about them and their safety. So we're glad that we've heard from them recently. They seem to be in a good place, but it's just been that is unusual, but good things in the end. So I did that, but also on my writer side, I relaunched my author website. I have built a whole new website with my books and my art. I'm going to try and update it regularly. So, and I did that because I'm going to try to release and keep up with a special author Dan Payton newsletter that's going to be going out to subscribers monthly to talk about what I'm up to, what's going on, stuff in writing, fantasy movies, all kinds of fun stuff to talk about. And so I'm launching that. And it's been a lot of work getting all that put together, but I'm hoping to get it launched within a week or so, everything running there. But the biggest news of all, and it ties into our guest today, is that I am signed a contract with the Prince of Cats Publishing for a new book. So they've already got the book. It's already ready to go. So, I mean, it's not ready to go. They've got the book, and we're going to start working on it. I can't give you any kind of release date. We literally just signed it a day or so ago. But I now have a third publisher and my first book through this publishing house, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So that's all that happened between just not 2 weeks ago, but last Thursday and yesterday. So busy, and hopefully productively busy.
A busy bee.
Yes. I'm ready to slow down a little bit at some point.
And we need a little bit of a break. It seems that we've both been busy. Yeah.
So, but I tie that in because, again, our author who's coming on is Shoshana Edwards, and she is an author with the Prince of Cats Publishing House, which Alexi Vandenberg, who was a guest a few weeks back, is the head of. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to bring her on, introduce her to everybody. And hello.
Hi there. Hello. I got to show you something.
Yeah, Prince of Cats. Oh, I want one.
My cover artist lives with me. She's my niece, and she's been doing those Prince of Cats buttons. They're just wonderful. Alexi's hat and signature vest.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This is just great.
Yep. This is Shoshana Edwards. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell people kind of your background, who you are?
Okay. Well, who I am. I'm Shoshana Edwards. I live in Oregon. I live in Hillsboro, which is just west of Portland. It's a small multicultural community, very heavy on the arts. It's wonderful, artistic, vibrant community, lots of live music. The farmers markets that we have here are just exciting. They're full of art and craft and creativity and music and dance. It's a great place to live if you're a creative person. Um, Professionally, I have degrees in neuropsychology and neurolinguistics, and most of my writing career was nonfiction, scholarly, publish or perish, and
Mm.
teaching people how to write. I was telling Dan earlier, I was extremely fortunate because I grew up. I say I grew up my 20s. I consider 20s to be a growing up decade.
Mm.
And in that decade, I lived in a fan house over by the Ambassador Hotel. Bruce Pells, if you know that name from Losses fame, lived in that house along with a
Mm.
bunch of other people who were all in Las Vegas. And it was the heyday of Las Vegas. You go to a Las Vegas meeting, and there was Larry Niven and Jerry Pornell and Ray Bradbury and Norman Spinrad and Harlan Ellison and Paul Anderson, and it was magnificent because they were just people just like us, and we all rubbed shoulders. We had the Forey Ackerman with the Acker Mansion. I went to college with Tim Powers. PK Dick lived in my house for a while,
Mm.
and I never saw it as anything extraordinary because you know, it's hard to see somebody walking through naked from the shower and think of them as a god afterwards. But I mean, seriously, these were wonderful people who were very open and very embracing of the community. I'm always stunned when I hear people talk about Harlan as being hateful or difficult or antagonistic because I never experienced Harlan as being anything but warm and supportive, and he was one of my best friends.
Mm.
And so was David Gerald. Um, I didn't write at that time because of personal reasons. I was dealing with personal demons, but that was another thing that was so good was that my personal demons didn't matter to any of these people. I was at the first SCA party and I was just accepted. And the SCA and science fiction were two places where I was fully and wholeheartedly accepted and embraced. And I feel in a way right now I'm kind of paying back a debt. I published my first novel at age 72, and the
Oh.
second one is coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
I just turned 79, so I consider it a heck of a 79th birthday.
There you
The
go.
third novel is ready to go. And
Wonderful.
I write in a series that Prince of Cats is going to make into a whole series open to many authors called Occult America. And the idea is that monsters of myth and folklore get accidentally brought to America and plopped down wherever they are, in my case, in Harper's Landing, which is a place I made up. And the people who accidentally brought them are pagans, they are earth magic based, and they know how to deal with these things. So in the first book, I bring a Bolotnik and they put him to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and the Bolotnik gets wakened up when the water wheel gets turned on, and it's modern America. And yes, there are still pagans there, but they don't know what they've got, and it takes them a while to figure out, and then they've got to deal with it. It's a little bit of horror, but I don't like blood and gore, so it's more like a good murder mystery, but with more than one murder. And the underlying theme of all, as I was telling Dan also, the underlying theme of all of Occult America will be community. The idea that big problems are solved by community, not by individuals.
Mm.
So much of the literature these days has a big hero. Now, it's not saying I don't like the big hero. God, I love Joe Ledger, Jonathan Mayberry's character, and I like Jack Reacher, and I'm a big John Wick fan. Love the movies. But if you look at Spencer's books, the Spencer books, or the Jesse Stone, and all those, in all of those, there's a community. Jeffrey Deaver's Lincoln Rhymes series, there's a community. And it's community that solves the problems. One person can't do it alone. And if you don't have community, if the community is divided, you're not going to solve the big problems.
Right.
And that's the underlying theme. So ask away. What can I tell you? What would you like to know?
Well, first of all, I'll tell people who are listening, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them. We'll make sure we ask them so we can get them answered.
Oh, by the way, the first book is called Deathly Waters. And it's about a blotnik, which is, I have been a quilter, and my eyesight is going, and my fingers started going numb. I've got neuropathy, so I had to stop quilting. And this whole creative outlet just disappeared. And this door opened. I wakened up one morning, and I love mythology. And I said, what would happen if we took a blotnik? Because I love Ukrainian mythology. What would happen if we took a blotnik and dropped it into America? And that's where this story came from, and it just kind of wrote itself. All 167 pages.
Yeah, I know the feeling very much. So.
Yeah.
You start with, I'm going to write a short story, and no, it doesn't. It goes way beyond that.
The Madness of Trees. They say it's due in May, but I think it's coming out this next week. Is about leshies, which are tutelary deities charged with taking care of the forests. Well, imagine if you're a tutelary deity and you get put to sleep for 100 years because you were bad, and you wake up and here's all these people cutting down trees, and you see the trees as your children. So these people are murdering your children. So suddenly my poor little Harper's Landing has an insane Lesha Chica on its hands. I just love to do nasty things to people.
Well, it definitely sounds fascinating.
I'm a writer. Don't piss me off, or I'll put you in my book.
I will wholeheartedly admit that the first guy who ever fired me from a job, and he did so quite unfairly, I put him in a book and killed him 3 times. I brought him back from the dead to kill him again.
Yeah, I've got a novella coming out probably in a couple of months, also from Prince of Cats, and again in the Harper's Landing, called Easy as Pie, and it predates the novels, because pie is a very important part of Harper's Landing. Magical apple pie. And in it, I kill off the last guy in some very interesting ways. And if you don't know the reference, well, I'm not going to go into it because this isn't a political broadcast.
Yeah. No spoilers. Let people pick these up. It's definitely interesting sounding books.
It's fun. It's fun, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah, and I love writing that can involve a lot of good research too, because then it's fun learning about your own book before you write it.
Yeah,
so much fun. Yeah. So okay, you said your first book was published when you were 72. What inspired you to? I mean, you said you stopped quilting, so a new creative outlet came about, which was this. Was that the only reason, or had you had ambition for longer to be a writer?
Oh, God, all my life. I can remember when I was a child, my mother said, you're going to be a famous reporter someday. That didn't work out. Well, I'm not going to be shy about it. I'm going to be just really open about it. I had severe mental illness that I dealt with for years. And thank goodness I overcame it. But it got in the way of doing a lot of things. So a lot of dreams had to be put on hold, and writing was one of them. I published a lot of poetry. I published a lot of scholarly stuff. I did a lot of writing for attorneys, doing witness evaluations and teaching, of course. So, writing was always a part of my life. It was just that I was never able to put a whole storyline together. I had wonderful openings. I have a whole notebook, and now it's transcribed into a file in my computer of snippets and pieces. And so I look for ones that are connected. And I was doing that all my life, but I never did a whole coherent story.
Mm.
And this one just popped into my head, and I literally knew the whole story from beginning to end.
Yep.
And I'm a pantser.
Yep. I'm what's called a plantster. I do a lot of plotting, but then I let the plot be take a life of its own. So all my plans go to waste. But I'll say I was actually on a discussion not too long ago with a bunch of other authors. They were asking about what to do about having so many ideas. I'm currently writing one story, and I have other scenes and characters and stuff running around my head. What do I do? What do I do? Do I write a bunch of different things? I said, actually, you should take all of those, write them piece by piece into a notebook or on a computer file, whatever. Put them down so your brain doesn't have to feel like it's got to keep rerunning it so it can keep a hold of it. Put it something solid and then set it aside, write your book, and then go back, because then you have great ideas waiting for you.
And you'll be stunned at how many of those actually connect with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You pull one from 1 month, and then 6 months prior you'd written it, and then, wow, these two fit together pretty nicely, and then this one sticks. Yeah. It's just...
Yeah, and also I have found on my behalf that about 40% of the time I'll write stuff down that's interesting ideas, and I will use this. The rest of the time I write down. After I write down, I look at it and read it and go, no, that's garbage. It sounded so good right here on paper. I'm like, no, that's just stupid.
Do you ever dream good stuff? Because boy, I do.
I live with vivid dreams. My dreams will tell complete stories. That's what baffles people. Is I will tell them about a dream I've had, and it came to an end. And when the story ended, I woke up. It's like I watched a movie or played part in a movie. I'm like, I'm not normal. I totally understand that.
Yeah. Keep something by your bed to either dictate or write it down. Because sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's that just gibberish.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this before, and it's a bit of a spin on the subject here. Because you talked about community. Now I'll tell you, first of all, I love that, because one of the first things I wrote in was for Star Trek. And one thing I always liked about the setting was that you had your hero character, your Captain Kirk character, but they never let him be the only one to solve all the problems.
Yeah.
He had a group, he had a community that made it happen by working together. And so that is, in your book, you mentioned that. And so I think we lose that today. We're losing that ability to come together and solve a problem as a group, because we're being divided by, unfortunately, the stuff we love called technology. So, yeah.
We're being divided by technology, but we're also being divided by jobs, by this whole idea that you need to get out, or you need to leave home and go off on your own. And some of the best families are multi-generational families. I mean, look at David Gerald's family. My God, what an example of love and creativity. 3 generations under a roof, all deeply caring for one another. And there are lots of other examples of that, but far too many of us, my grandkids live in Albuquerque, and here I am in New York, and there's a loss of continuity. And now in Harper's Landing, not giving away too much, a lot of kids get killed. And these families, to lose a child is probably one of the worst things that can happen to you. And I lost 2 children. So I wrote how the community dealt with the deaths of those children in a way I wish I had had. The kind of support I wish I had had. And it got those families through. It got the community through a horrific loss, because if there had been those divisions, people had been texting each other instead of actually answering the phone and talking, they wouldn't have gotten through it so well.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
and of course the damn pandemic has just,
Yeah.
thank God for Zoom. I mean, if I didn't have Zoom and this kind of thing, I think I'd be absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Because as an elderly person, it's not safe for me to go out. It's not safe to go anywhere, even with a mask where there's a whole lot of people. If I want to live to be 100, which I'd like to, but we've all been terrified by it,
Yeah.
and we tend to look askance at each other, and this whole idiotic division we've going on. We need community. We need to get back together again.
I'll say a confession. Back during the beginning of COVID, and everything just shut down. I live in Michigan, and Michigan was the third most locked down, shut down states in the nation, to the point you couldn't leave your house. Right. And now I have family home, so I wasn't completely alone. But there's only so much time with the same people before you're ready to kill each other. Yeah. And so I began to feel, and also I can be gregarious. I like being around people,
right?
And I couldn't. And what startled me and made me realize I had to find some outlet to reach out to other people was I was in my room. We shut down everything. I'm sitting here and I turn on the game Skyrim, which I love playing. And I'm playing the game and I'm finding myself literally just wandering around one of the cities, randomly talking to people in the city. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And dawned on me, my brain was trying to glom onto that community through artificial game. I'm like, no. That's almost going insane here. And then we started organizing Zoom game night where I had friends who get on here and we play, what was it? I can think of it. We played a lot of online games you can do with people. And that was helpful. But once I got the opportunity to go further, I grabbed it because I didn't want to get to that position again where I'm looking at game characters who are repeating the same sentence over and over again. And that's real.
Well, I did kind of the same thing with WoW, except that I had a huge guild on WoW, and thank God for them because we would. What are you laughing about, Brian?
She plays WoW.
You're killing him.
Okay. Wow. I should not have been surprised. I should not have been surprised.
I had a boomkin. What else would I have but a boomkin?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. And I played WoW, and my guild was huge, and we had all ages, and God, it saved our sanity because we knew. I mean, we made times that we said we get on. We raid. Okay, tonight we're not going to raid because we're going to end up yelling at each other. So we're going to go pick plants. We're going to go prospect. We're going to go quest. We're going to do whatever. And I mean, God, it was fun. We had naked gnome races. We'd create gnomes and we'd race them through the Badlands with everything trying to attack them. But it kept our sanity. God, so technology can work for you in times of isolation. It's just that I don't see people really trying to do that. I look at Facebook. My God, what a fabulous tool for keeping connection and making friends. And instead, you've got people calling each other names and politicizing and dividing, and it's painful. It's really painful. I think we need to get out and have dances in the streets or something.
Yep. I actually started my own. It wasn't really a podcast. It was just I called it my Facebook show, and all I did was read from one of my books, and it's an unpublished series of stories. I got on there and started doing that because I wanted people who were on Facebook who were arguing or doing nothing but scrolling have something where they're actually listening to someone talk to them, answer their questions. I actually did that. People actually accuse me that, well, you're just taking advantages for promotion. I'm like, I'm not even reading from a published book. This is just a series of stories I wrote for fun. Let's just have fun. Let's get away from stress, people. Ooh.
Brian, why did you laugh so hard when I said, wow?
Be careful.
I'm not surprised. Just having you say that, it kind of shocked me just a little bit, but I should not have been surprised. I mean, I read all about you. I looked at all the books and everything. So with the description on the website and everything, it should not have surprised me.
Well, we had
to hear you say all those terms and raids and
we had a couple of people in our guild that were in their 80s.
Mm-hmm.
That I should not be surprised by that. I love WoW. I play it myself, but wow.
I mean, we didn't raid with the big guys because we're slow. And we died a lot, and we laughed a lot about dying a lot, Every once in a while, we'd do a Leroy Jenkins,
Okay.
Yeah, the game is designed for all ages. It's what you make it,
Yeah,
Are there no questions out there?
I'm sure questions are going to be popping up.
Okay. John Clark asked a question that nobody can answer, which is, what author is normal? I haven't met one yet, so when I do, I will give you a name.
Describe normal.
That's a good one right there. So, John says he plays, I don't know what that is actually, groups over Discord once a week. My friend
GURPS. GURPS? Really? I love GURPS.
What is GURPS?
Steve Jackson Games. Love GURPS.
I don't know why I missed that. Yes.
And over Discord. What a great idea, John.
Mm-hmm. I actually got into Dungeons and Dragons for the first time in my life just a little over a year ago. And for the most part, until we could get back together, I was playing by Zoom with people on Discord. We actually had two different sites for using, because one they popped the map up on, and then the other one we could talk through. And I'd never played it before, so it was very unusual. My initial playing it was that I wanted to play an RPG like Dungeons and Dragons for like 25 years. And every time I tried to get into it, either nobody around me wanted to play or played, or those that did were like, oh, no, we already have a group. And I'm like, I just want to learn to play. So when moved up here to Michigan, I met a group of people. They played, and I said, well, I told them, I said, I want to learn to play, but I know these groups have to be small. So if you ever have an opportunity, include me. And one time they called me and said, well, yeah, we have a person who's having to move. He's not here anymore. Would you like to join in? I was like, yes. All these years, I've had people take my books.
Oh my God. You've been kidnapped by the dark side. I had a thief named Kleptopause. My primary character in D&D was a bard.
The same thing all over again, right?
Kind of fits, yeah. John, unfortunately, Brian gets calls from work, so
yeah, that's all right.
I have a feeling.
But yes, no, I actually have people who contacted me because they use my books like Dragon Wand and turn them into campaigns for
everything is
D&D.
locked.
And I'm like, you're using my books for D&D, and I haven't even played.
Well, okay. Well, while Brian is dealing with work, let's go back to age for a minute.
All right.
I'm 79.
You're going to have to do it.
And the brain is like in its 40s. The body says, oh, yeah. But,
no, I don't.
Seriously, I want to see more older characters in books, because older characters add a flavoring.
No.
My books range from grade schoolers to Charity, who is in her hundreds. And everybody has something to add. Everybody has a different perspective. I don't think we see enough older heroes. Now, by older, I'm talking about Jim Birch, the primary character in my book, the sheriff. Jim is in his 40s. and he's going to be a father for the first time. So, he's hitting things older, but he's not your typical 20-year-old flex the muscles, go out and kill him guy. He's a guy with experience. He's a guy with a viewpoint, and I want to see more of those kind of characters. Joe Ledger is that way to a certain degree. I mean, Jonathan writes older characters. Lincoln Rhyme, they played him as a young guy in the movies, but if you read Jeffrey Deaver carefully, Lincoln is probably in his 40s because of the time that he spent. Dean Koontz's Jane Hawk. You'd think that if you're going to have a sexy female heroine, she'd be young. No, Jane's in her late 30s. She's got an almost teenage son. I want to see more of those characters because there's a depth to their experience. And even in YA adults, I would like to see some more mentor type characters. I think that's why I like your book, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, my very first book that I tried to publish, my very, very first book is a whole other story. I'm not going to talk about it. My very first book I tried to publish was called The Crystal Needle. I've actually rewritten it just recently for part of Nano last year because it's close to 12 years old when I wrote it originally. And the book, the main character, starts out in the original telling, he's 19. He's post-high school. He's about to go into college, and all the stuff that happens in the story is that period of life in between. And it's growing from high school boy to an adult is kind of the theme. I presented that to publishers, and publishers all looked at me and said, well, we like the book, but can you make him at least 14? I'm like, the whole element of the story ends with him proposing marriage to a girl that becomes crucial to his life and he falls deeply in love with. I can't tell that with a 14-year-old. And they're like, oh, but that's all that sells. Like, no, that's all you want to take. I think I'm not just 19. I want to write stories of fantasy novels that are YA feel with 25-year-olds, with 30-year-olds, not 11-year-old who says that. That's something. I love Harry Potter, and I don't complain about that one, but there's too many movies, TV shows, and books where you have a kid 10, 11 years old saving the universe.
Well, and Harry Potter wouldn't work if you didn't have Dumbledore and all of the teachers and the older characters, the mentors. Hagrid. I mean, Hagrid isn't a kid.
No.
It wouldn't work if it was just kids.
Yeah, it didn't. She didn't write it as just kids save the day.
Yeah,
and that's why Harry Potter to me is so good. But yeah, that is actually a bone I have to pick with publishing. Is they take young adult and act like the character has to be the same age as the reader. I think younger readers, should have an older character to look up to. I want to be like them when I get that age. That honorable, that heroic, that thoughtful.
Right.
I also want to look up to adults as people who can guide me and be wise and understanding, not just the parents are just a problem. I got to solve the problem for my parents.
Well, when I was a young teenager, I started collecting Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew was not a young teenager. Nancy Drew was in her late 20s.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have worked if she was that young. I mean, we would have known. No, somebody our age isn't doing that stuff.
No, and they actually did write in a series of Nancy Drew books that were Nancy Drew, I think they called them Nancy Drew Jr., where the girl in the book is like 14. And they didn't go over that well. And I'm like, that's because it's not the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ruined that one.
So is work imploding, Brian?
I know that I swear he does it on purpose. He does it on purpose. He knows that I'm live. They're wanting to leave the building, and I'm having an issue with the alarm where it's not arming the building, and you can't leave unless the building's armed. So you have to put it in so many times before it says, would you like to force arm it? And they don't like you when you do that. But you have to do it, and then out the door you go. The problem is the opener, as soon as she opens the door, it goes off. Like run to put the code in. But anyways, that's what I'm dealing with.
Send Baby Yoda to fix it.
Yeah.
I should. That's the
I got
problem.
Falcon
We
here,
work
so.
with children.
There you go.
Youngins. I work with youngins, I should say.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
I've
don't we
had
all?
experience. My one experience working at a McDonald's, at the time I was in my mid-20s, and my manager was 19, the assistant manager was 18, and I felt like I was so because they acted like it. It wasn't like, oh, they're mature. No, they acted like. In fact, they acted like they were 12, and that was so much fun. But that's a whole other story.
When the one time I became a department chair in a fit of insanity, I said yes. And we had a new department forming, so that's why I said yes, because it was combined psychology and linguistics. And I decided to bring speculative fiction into the milieu too. And all of the people under me were like in their mid-20s, just finished with their PhDs. The TAs were all early 20s. And oh my God, it was like herding juvenile cats.
Yep.
I lasted a year. I don't know how I lasted a year, but I lasted.
You're a Kindle reader, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to send you a free copy of my book, The Winter Wizard Chronicles.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Oh,
that one is actually, I think you'll like this, because all the characters of this book are all adults. And in fact, the main character is Brian.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, so he is in there. His former co-host is in there, and I'm in there. The story, it was a challenge to begin with from Brian to write a fantasy short story about him and his former co-host, and I threw us all in there just for fun. But the book took a life of its own. It became a really great story, and I wanted to get it published, but I knew that if I handed this to a publisher, because it's written in a feel of a young adult fantasy, if I handed it to a publisher, they go, "Oh, that's great, make them 12." And I was gonna say no, so I just self-published the darn thing, and it's getting good response. So I think you would enjoy that. So I'll send you a copy of that.
Well, if you ever look for a publisher, I know of one that would probably like it too.
Yeah. I just might have to talk to him, but he's already got one that I'm burned him with.
Oh, good. Well, speaking of publishers, I kind of want to give a shout out to Eric Flint, because I love Alexi dearly, and I'm under contract with Prince of Cats, and that's where everything I write from now on is going to be published. But Eric was the one who gave me my first shot. I finished Deathly Waters at the time the title was Death Lives in the Water. I knew it was a good book. I didn't have the slightest idea of how to flog a fiction book.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into a conversation with Eric on Facebook, a DM conversation. And he said, "What kind of book is it?" And I told him, and he said, "Okay, kind of fantasy." And I said, "Well, yeah, a little." He said, "Send it to me." And he published it. Now we've edited the crap out of it since and changed the cover twice. The new cover is really good and really scary. But Eric had faith in me. And Eric has started a lot of young writers on their way. So I want to give a shout out to him.
Yeah, it's
especially because he's not doing so well right now. So he can use a little shout out.
Hello, Eric. I'm sorry, what was his last name?
Flint.
So hello,
yeah,
Eric.
1632 series.
Oh,
the guy who just got the award for best alternative fiction, alternate history.
We may have to have him come on and talk to us.
If you haven't read the 1632 series, read the first book. You will be hooked, I promise you.
I will definitely have to. We'll have to talk to him.
Eric is incredible. Right now he's in the hospital. I don't know that he's going to be up for I'm racking my brain as to who might be really good to talk to. Maybe Stoney Compton, because Stoney writes in that kind of milieu, but he writes alternate history for Alaska.
Oh,
but he's a very good friend of Eric's. David Weber and Eric have co-written a lot of the Honor Harrington series. I'm speaking Greek to you.
No, I know these names.
Anyways.
So yeah, anytime anybody comes on and they have
Yeah.
other authors and publishers they know want to come on here and talk, we will be glad to give them time.
Oh. Well, the Honor Harrington series is genuine space opera.
Ooh, now I like that.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful space opera, and there's a whole fanish thing surrounding Honor Harrington with people having admirals and other titles, and yeah, but he gave me a chance. He took a chance on me, and that was big. Gave me the courage to go ahead and start writing more. And that's so important, that we encourage other as authors. Dan and Brian, we really need to support and encourage the other young authors that are coming up. There's so many people who are just waiting to jump on them and tell them, "Oh, this sucks," and "Oh, you made a mistake here," and "Oh, you left out a comma there," and whatever. When encouraging them and saying, this scene is absolutely fantastic, and if you would also, it would be incredible.
I would. I've always said, and my philosophy is that authors are here to help each other. We are not in competition with one another, because there's simply not enough authors to fulfill the need of the readers in this world.
That's true.
And so, if you act like you're in competition with the authors, you will be left behind, because you're going to be fighting the whole crowd.
Right.
We're wanting to help.
Well, it's also silly to say that we're in competition, because, to be perfectly honest, there's no such thing as a new plot, new idea. There's just a different spin on it. Every storyline that anybody can come up with, if I search far enough, I can give you examples of that same storyline. It's just how we approach it, what we people it with, how we end it. But if you think you've got something new, check your ego at the door.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but that, is something I love to help authors. I love talking to new authors and online, especially when I meet new authors. If they have questions like, how do I find a publisher? How do I do this? I will personally, if an author comes on to one of the Facebook pages and says, "Oh, I've started, I finished my manuscript, I want to find a publisher. How do I write a query letter?" I will privately message them and say, "What have you done so far?" And they'll say, "Oh, I wrote a book." I mean, have you edited it? Have you edited it a second time? Have you had anybody read it? Have you Oh no, don't the publishers do that? Then I will kindly say, "Welcome to reality. And here is a checklist of the steps you're going to take before you even write your query letter."
Right.
Because if you don't take these steps, the query letter is a waste of your time.
Yep.
And I try to be nice, but I also want to make it very clear that I'm serious.
Well, I'm about to have my second book published, and I've sold a few short stories. I've sold a novel. I've got that history of the scholarly writing. But every time I start a new story, I consider myself a new author. I'm taking classes with David Gerald. I'm doing some masterclass work and following Neil Gaiman stuff. I've taken Kat Rambo's classes. I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop exploring. And I'm always a new author with a new book every time I start. And it's funny, I was talking with Tim Powers the other day, and I said, I find myself doubting myself. Now, here is this guy who has won every award possible, is a fantastic writer, and he says, "Yeah, I second guess myself a lot," and I just kind of almost fell out of my chair because as long as I've known Tim, that was something I never knew about him, was that he felt that way. And I will say, I don't think Harlan felt that way. I never heard him say that, but he may have, because I think that imposter syndrome and second guessing are just part of the nature of the beast.
Being a creative person in any art form where you are creating from zero, often leads you to have that imposter. And true imposter syndrome is a whole other deep issue that goes beyond what normal authors have. But normal authors, artists, musicians, the creative people, and I say starting from zero because I do embroidery, I do a lot of handwork, but I use patterns, I use stuff, so I don't question because I finished their pattern, so it's not mine.
Right.
But I do a lot of painting, I do a lot of drawing, digital art, I do writing books, stuff like that. And I haven't met a creative person yet who doesn't sit there and say, "Well, I wish I was as good as," and they'll list somebody else.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that too. I mean, I consider myself way below your average well-published author out there, like bottom of the ground. I'm trying to work my way up, but if I don't keep going up, I will stay there.
Yeah.
That's imposter syndrome leads people to stop. And I don't want to stop. I just keep pushing and pushing, no matter how many things my brain says is wrong. I keep pushing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I went back to quilting, and I can tell you that even if my quilting is good, it's always, I'm not going to be as good as that guy. I'm going to do this pattern. Oh God, I can't do my own patterns. Yeah. And it's the same with the stories. Sometimes I can't tell you how many times you get online and you talk with people. You talk with Kit Carr. You talk with whoever. And say, I'm stuck here. How do I get past this point? I've got my character is sitting in this bog full of monsters, and I can't get her out.
Yep. Oh yeah, and that's one of my classic fun times with authors. I do it to people, and people do it to me. As I'm there, go, okay, I'm at a writer's block because I've created basically a corner. And my character's stuck in it. I can't get him out. And then, well, okay, calm down.
Now I know who to call.
So let's back up. And I've helped a lot of people out of that corner because I help myself out of that corner constantly.
Now I know who to DM. Thank you.
Please do. Well, okay, for anybody who's listening, I'll give you my basic piece of advice I always start with before we go into, okay, what is your specific problem? If you're writing a story, and a lot of people who watch this are amateur authors or published authors. But if you're writing a story and you reach a point where your character has been put in a corner, they literally can't go anywhere, your story is not progressing, and you can't figure out why that's happening. The solution usually means you need to step back and find out what put them in that corner to begin with. Oftentimes you don't do that because your brain goes, the story's so good. The story's so good right here. The story's so good right here. How can I'm like, wait a second. If the story's so good, why is your character sitting there not doing anything? Back up, realize what barrier you have accidentally put in front of them that's insurmountable. Take it out of the story and then figure out how to put it back in so they can get around it. And that is the most basic fundamental advice I've given to people. And it saves so many people's books because they sit there and they, again, write their character into a corner. And they're like, well, they have enemies over here, their sword is broken, and they can't do anything. I'm like, well, guess what? Where's your biggest problem? Well, they have a broken sword. Okay, don't break it. What? But that's in the story. Not anymore. There's something called a delete button. Don't break the sword. Oh, well, that fixed the problem. And I'm not saying that because of arrogance. I'm saying it because I've had to do it so many times to my own stuff. I know I'll do it again.
Yeah.
I know I'll sit there and I'll spend 3 days going, I can't finish the book. And then finally I'll go, oh, yeah. Why did I put him in that corner?
Thank you. I grabbed the pen because you just got my character out of a problem.
I'm glad to help. I have to mention, I'm a little jealous. One of our viewers, Heather Hoover Johnson, is in Jamaica.
My sister is in Jamaica right now. Yeah, whatever.
Oh.
I don't care. I'm
in the diet winter of Michigan. I want to be in Jamaica.
She can keep it. I've seen the pictures. She's having a good time. So,
well, we're glad you're spending some of your Jamaican time watching us.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was terrible, Dan. Oh, go on. Boo.
Anyways. So
she is. She is.
Well, it's been fun having you on here.
I've had a ball. I've had an absolute ball. I wish there'd been more questions, but
As I said, you usually have more questions popping up, but I guess we were answering them along the way. People
normally,
people will
that's
ask them
normally what
after the fact.
happens.
So if a question pops up later, we'll
It's
send it.
always
We'll tag you in it to answer post video. But
well, and
it's
I'm
usually what
happy to
happens.
have people contact me on Facebook. I mean, that's just fine. I have both an author page and just a page under my own name. So I have Shoshana Edwards author, and I have just me. And I'm happy to talk to people. I don't hide myself. I don't hide behind a wall. Of course, I have the luxury of being retired, so you know that is a luxury. And I'm privileged to have an incredible amount of support. To have my niece who's living here, so I get to edit the covers and look at the stuff that she's doing. And my husband is very, very creative and really, really supportive because I'm severely crippled. Arthritis has left me unable to walk now, so I've got a really, really strong support network, and I'm lucky. I count my blessings every day. It's so good.
Wonderful.
The background. Can I just ask about the background?
Sure.
Your wall there.
Oh, that's an extension of Hobbiton. And let me turn this over this way.
Okay, so
No, okay. There's the
the wall's
beginning.
painted. Okay.
There's the beginning of Hobbiton. And now if we go across this way, do you see the little hint of pink up here? In the clouds? That's Mordor. That's the hint of Mordor in the mountains.
Oh, the Hobbit.
And we have the whole Hobbit. We have the party tree way over on the far side.
Okay.
And down at the bottom of the stairs, we have Gollum hiding.
So it wraps
we have
around.
Bag End. We have
Oh.
the whole bit. We had all these murals painted. The room downstairs that I used to use as my writing room is painted like a Northwest forest. And my bathroom, my husband calls it the reading room, so we have a 3-dimensional library painted on the wall.
Well, tell Golem that it's mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we even have the box of towels painted up on the top.
Oh,
and instead of Tom, we have Thomas the Tanked Engine. He looks very drunk. And we have a library painted on one of the walls. It's fun. This house is a fun house. Lots of wide open spaces. I'm going to hate leaving it, but it's 2-story, and I'm going to have to because even though I have a chairlift, it's becoming too painful to get to the chairlift to get downstairs. And I hate like hell to sell it, but I'm going to have to. So I'm hoping to find a gamer who has money because trust me, this is a gamer's house.
Or a fantasy author.
I am so glad you invited me to be on here. This has been a ball.
Yes, we're glad to have you on here. Definitely look forward to. I'm going to check out your books. And as you said before, they're categorized in horror, but from the description of them and what I was reading about them, they look not quite like horror as much as creature.
Well, they're occult horror. I will tell you that book 3, which I'm getting into, and thank you, Dan, you just got me past a major blockade. It's very, very dark. Because I felt it was time for a very, very dark story. And for people who are squeamish about people dying, the first 2 books may not be your cup of tea, because while I don't put splatter, blood and gore everywhere, I also I had the wonderful advice of Patricia McEwen, who is an author and a former forensic a CSI person. And so she helped me tremendously to make sure to get all of those scenes right and dealing with evidence and stuff. And I don't hold back. People don't die nicely. I did kill off one guy that kind of needed to be killed, who was in the papers, and you'll recognize it when you read it. He deserves it. Had to kill off one guy I wanted to, and so my political leanings are kind of pretty clear there. But I would say occult horror is probably pretty close to filling the bill of what it is. You know, and these people came to America because of a very real time. Ukraine has a long history of being victimized, and these first Ukrainians came in the. We had a wave of immigration in the mid 1800s, during and at the end of the Civil War, and they arrived in New Orleans and traveled north, and most of them settled in the Ozarks. You'll find a lot of Ukrainians in the Ozarks. My people continued further on north, but they came to escape persecution from the Eastern Orthodox Church, which Russia had embraced and sent witch hunters into Ukraine, and people were being killed on just the suspicion of being a witch. And this happened again right at the turn of the century, which is the second immigration, which is the foundation for the Leshy book, book 2. Book 3 is called Soul Survivor, and it's about soul eaters, which is an African legend. And the soul eaters came as part of the shipment of slaves to America. Some of the African peoples that were gathered up actually were soul eaters. And soul eaters are shape changers. Strangely enough, they changed to wolves, and that's where the werewolf legend came from. We often think of werewolf legends as coming from the Black Forest, but no, it's an African origin. And I pull no punches about this. I pull no punches about our history and about how we treated these people. I don't like sugarcoating.
I can see that. It's
No, it
about
doesn't.
time. Yeah. Why?
It doesn't do us any good.
No. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
I could love America and still acknowledge that we made some terrible mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we did some really awful things. Book 2, which is just about to come out, one of the peoples that shows up are the Osage. And it's a very small tribe of Osage that chose not to go south, because a lot of the Osage along the Mississippi River, up near Hannibal and that area, chose to go down to St. Louis and became acclimated and absorbed into white American society. And this group chose not to. And the isolation that they chose because of it caused them a great deal of pain. And I don't pull any punches about that either. But how they get absorbed, again, we go back to this community thing that we were talking about, Dan, because I show what happens when you embrace people and see them as human beings and look beyond their differences. This doesn't mean that you don't see them as Native American, as indigenous people. They do. And they celebrate their traditions. They celebrate everything about them and encourage them. At the same time, they embrace them as human beings and bring them in to the larger community of Harper's Landing. And it wasn't easy to do that. I had no template for doing that, so I had to turn to, what do I want?
Yeah, I'll say I grew up in Oklahoma, and where I grew up was a college town. Stillwater, Oklahoma was based on a college, not on industry, farming, or whatever else is there. So my hometown was a multicultural town. All my friends from around the world, and we had 3 Indian reservations within earshot of the town. So I grew up with a lot of Navajo and Cherokee and Wichita. I can speak some Cherokee, in fact. So if you want examples of embracing the community that was displaced, Oklahoma doesn't have any native population. Its native population did not exist until they were put there.
Yeah.
So I got to learn this from the people who were put there. So yeah, sounds very interesting. Well, we've definitely gone past time here.
Okay.
I love doing that. But so I just want to thank you for coming on, and we look forward to your books. Everybody, definitely check them out. We have the links posted. We'll continue to post them for her books, and as your books come out,
I made sure. Mm-hmm.
As your books come out, we may ask you to come back, and we'll talk about new releases, and might even have a multi-author day where we have you and others.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Publishing.
We need Alexi back on here.
Well, we got you, Dan, and we got Dan Wells and a couple of other people. So yeah, we got some good stuff to talk about. Alexi's doing some good things.
I might bring Alexi on to be the co-host, and I'll just be one of the guests.
That'd be fun.
He can ask questions. Okay.
Hey.
Well, again, thank you, Shoshana, for being here, and it's been a blast. I'm looking forward to your books. Again, text me your email address, and I will email you a free copy of Winter Wizard Chronicles. And I hope you enjoyed the book. And Brian loves
you will
that.
Like it. Yes, you will like it. Yes.
So I thank you. And anything else, Brian?
Just keep playing WoW, please. That really makes me happy. It really does. And now I need to start playing it. I need to. We'll get in contact. I need to see you in game.
Go back to Classic WoW because it's free.
Yeah.
And it's the classic game, and it's fun. You get questing and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That just makes me happy. I don't know what. But all right.
I'm afraid I don't have much time for it lately.
Yeah. But, I hope that I don't run out of time to that, because I hope that, I'm 80 years old and I'm still playing WoW or something, I hope, keep me busy. But thank you for coming on. Yeah, you pretty much answered everyone's questions so far. And like Dan said, most questions come in afterwards with all the replays, and this video never goes away. So that's always a good thing. So if we have any questions, Dan, I'm pretty sure we'll reach out to you, or I will.
Sure.
So yeah, and we'll definitely have you back on. Definitely.
So thank you for being here, and we'll say good night to everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Till next week.